Press record. So the dojo is a place where you can bring questions. There might be specific case studies that you're working with, someone that you're working with. So we ask that you don't bring in personal information that can identify them, but you can talk about, bring in a little bit of, the history, why they're coming to see you, and, what it is that you want some support on and help on. Or you can ask more general questions about focalizing in practice, just general questions about the material as well. And, I kind of have this, when I run these, I think there's something quite beautiful about when you can bring somebody in, because often, what we're doing is we're bringing in resource for you, and we're bringing in resource for that person as well. And it's really interesting the number of times, I've had my own supervision in this way, and, we've run these and people have gone back and said, oh, something just shifted without even me doing anything. So there's something in the general field of bringing people in this way, in a loving way, in not a pathologized way, but in a way that we can all bring some intention around supporting them, which has some kind of, sounds a bit woo-woo, but it does have a shift on the field of the container as well. So that's something just to say about when we're working, when you've got sort of specific client questions. And generally, always happy just to kind of mull around sort of general questions as well. So do either of you have like a specific kind of case study that you want to bring today?
I was joining a little bit spontaneously. I think I would actually have questions. I just need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Let them form, that's fine. How about you, Kim? Were you coming with something specific, or were you just kind of coming to be in the general mulch and ask questions as they arrive?
Yeah, I mean, I have a question floating to my mind right now. Nice to see you.
Do you two want to just, so we'll start with you then, Kim.
Sure.
But do you two just want to kind of just bring, just introduce yourselves to one another? Because I think it's probably the first time that you've been in a space together, isn't it?
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah. Do you want to just maybe just share, like, where you are, what cohort you were on, what your modality, kind of like, yeah, just a little bit about your work.
Sure. I'm unmuted, so I can go first. Yeah, so my name's Kim Johnson, and I am a yoga therapist turned somatic practitioner, and I recently just got hired by a coaching company in the United States. I live in Canada on Vancouver Island. But I got hired by a coaching company in the United States who specializes in religious and cult trauma. And I have a history in religious and cult trauma. So I am like so excited for this job. I literally, that old, it's I guess it's like a koan or something. Maybe it's more like a spiritual story of like, if you're doing your right livelihood, then you're like a candle and you're lighting other people's candles without losing your flame. That's how I feel in this work. So far. And so I just use my tools of embodiment and nervous system support for these people that I'm working with. So that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Congrats, Kim. Lena, are you happy to share?
Yeah, so actually we met once, Kim. I now remember actually you mentioning this new job in one of the community calls.
I recognize your voice now. Yeah. Hi.
So I am a shapeshifter. Currently actually trying to get back to work after a 2 years career break. I don't know what will it be. I'm also a yoga teacher, so that's kind of wanting to enter my life for a while, but I'm actually currently not actively practicing. I'm starting to practice vocalizing slowly with a few people, with friends of the friends, and now I have one client who is a client already. So I think I will be curious to bring that up and yeah, see what I can get out.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's so nice to hear where you're both at. How about, because we've got a bit of extra time today, because it is a smaller group, how about we start with a little practice just to kind of come into the body. And come into the body in, like, see what, like, here's an invitation. Sometimes we kind of come into the body with like a real intensity, like, oh, what is going on in my body? I'm going to be like totally embodied. See what it's like to change that up, that intensity. Like, how much of you is willing right now to come into some felt sense and honor that, right? Don't try and push or force, but honor that it can be gentle. Honor that it can be as light touch as your system is willing and organized to give right now. And don't make it right, don't make it wrong. Right, so just with as much attention as available, drop your attention into your feet. And notice, any material that's on your feet, the position of them. Notice the parts of your feet that are either on the bed or touching the ground. Maybe your heels are touching the surface underneath you. Maybe all of your feet are touching the surface. Notice what that's like. Get a check on, like, temperature, some of the kind of more meta things like temperature, shape, position. Hang about there for a little bit. No rush. Hang about your feet. And then bring a little bit of attention slowly up your ankles, calves, knees, thighs. And then bring a little bit of attention into your pelvic bowl. Noticing the angle, the position. Noticing any felt sense here that feels available to pick up in this kind of quiet place of power, really, within our body, the pelvic bowl. Notice what that's like. And bring a little bit of attention up through the rest of your body, paying a little bit more attention as you come up through the trunk of your body to your spine. It's midline down the back. And just noticing what you notice about the spine area. Noticing arms, then shoulders. Noticing your face. Any little face that your face is pulling, let that be okay, but just notice it. Notice what that outer face is like. And then see if you can bring a bit of attention to what's behind the face. So there's the sort of outer layer, and then there's a kind of inner layer of the face. See what that's like to notice that. And then final invitation for the practice is to bring about some imagery of all your teachers, past and present. Maybe they're even spiritual teachers that are just in your ancestral spiritual line. Maybe they're teachers in your modalities. All the benevolent wise ones behind you. And just get a sense of them lined up behind you as you are in service to others right now. All the benevolent ones. And just kind of check out what that does to your body, to your breath, to your direct experience. And then maybe bring about an image of clients, dear ones that you're working with, past, present, and future. Notice that you have the support behind you still as you look towards them in front of you. You can place them in front of you wherever you like, near you, a little bit further, a little bit to the side. Just spend some time hanging out there, noticing that you have this heart, this body, these skills that are ready to work with dear ones in front of you, to bring them into this session this evening. And that we all have behind us all of our benevolent teaching ancestors, current, past, and present, maybe spiritual ones as well, if you want to bring those in, all the benevolent wise folk behind. And if you want, let's just hang out here for a moment or two, no right, no wrong, simply noticing what arises for you. When you're ready, close down this kind of imagery, these impressions and sensations that you're working with in any way that feels good for you. If you want to thank them or if you just want to close it down. Just take some deep breaths together. When you're ready, if you've got your eyes closed, open your eyes, just check in your surroundings. A little bit of mini orientation around the space that you're in. Thank you for practicing with me. And Kim, whenever you're ready, sweetheart, we can move into you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good. I have like three questions kind of competing for attention in my mind right now that just kind of rose up as we were practicing. So
Yeah.
let me just choose one. I'm noticing as I hold space for my clients that something in me that wants to rush ahead to the really juicy embodiment stuff that I know.
Mm.
And they are nowhere close to getting there at all, which I acknowledge. And so a lot of I've been here for at this company for about a month. I have about 5 clients a week. So in those sessions, a lot of it is just being a compassionate witness. mirroring back to them what they're saying. A lot of it is really intense.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff around like things they've been told about demonic activity,
Mm-hmm.
um, sin, shame messages, because I've been working with this material in my own life and in writing and reading obsessively, literally for like 15 years. I feel like I've built like a lot of capacity in my nervous system to hold this space with other people. So I'm like, wow, this is great. I'm not triggered. I'm not even like emotionally affected by it because I know they can get out the other side. Like I just know this. So that feels really good. I just want to make sure you know that that piece is not happening. So, I guess my question is there like, when you're working with someone and you're an embodiment coach or somatic therapist, and they come to you and they're like, so like there's so much that has to happen before they even get to like say a focalizing session, could you briefly lay out perhaps those steps
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or just speak to that?
Sure. Um, I can and I will. There's lots to say about that. What I have curiosity about, first of all, because I think this will help, is are you open to sharing what would it, I think I get an essence when you talk about juicy embodiment, right? But what would it mean to you to get what's under that drive to get to the juicy embodiment? What's that desire fueled by?
Feeling like I'm better at that than the cognitive chatting
Okay.
about their issues.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I know that like so many people are coming to these sessions, they just want to be understood and they want to know that they're not overreacting and they're not crazy.
Mm-hmm. 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 And so you feel like you're better, and what are you telling yourself that that would mean if you brought your better skills to that?
You know what? I just need to like kind of scratch at that in my mind for a second.
Yeah.
Is that true? Um, is that really why?
Answer this. What's going on in your body as you scratch around in your mind? Take a look at that.
I was more just kind of scanning my experience of wanting to do the embodiment piece with my clients
Mm-hmm.
and just trying to locate the reason. I guess, I don't know, I guess I'm just feeling a lot of tension between my shoulder blades.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, I guess I feel like, I guess I'm just like, I guess the picture that comes to mind is just like, I come out of the focalizing training with guns blazing, and I'm like, I want everybody to know about this.
Yeah.
And now I have to like pull back. That's
Mm-hmm.
exactly it. Now I have to pull back
Yeah.
and realize that not everybody wants this right now.
Mm.
That feels very true.
Okay. So there's a pulling back. And as
Yeah.
you're experiencing that, there's something in your shoulders. So maybe let's just tend to what's in your body, and then I'll go into some of the more kind of teaching stuff. But it's good to notice what's happening in your body, because then that will just kind of, inform you and your awareness also while you're in this place of navigating this bit of territory, right? Because you can just be a bit attentive to that.
Mhm.
Is there anything else that wants to be said before I start to mooch into this territory?
I guess I'm noticing like a kind of a wafting in my stomach that feels like inadequacy
Mm,
in terms of the other piece. Like I was really excited that I actually felt like I was really good at the embodiment stuff. And now
mm,
I'm feeling like this inadequacy of like being, I'm not a therapist, but being in a bit of a therapist role of like giving out a lot of other tools
mm,
for
mm,
people. I guess I
mm,
just feel a little bit over my head.
mm.
But that's not true. I actually feel very capable,
Yeah,
but um, it's just not what I expected.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kind of like, there's this little kid inside me that's like, dang it, like I wanted to practice vocalizing with these people.
Yeah. Let's not make that wrong, right? Let's not make
Right.
that wrong.
Yeah.
Make that wrong, right? So that's that's passion and desire.
Yeah.
It's passion and desire. Let's not make that wrong. And so I really want to celebrate the passion and desire that's there for you to get to the juicy stuff, as you call it. And I also really want to celebrate the efficacy of the question itself, right? So just really land in those 2 points. I I think there's probably something for you, which you probably are doing, just having dialogue with the company, just kind of, really making sure that, um, you know, everyone understands what that container is that you can bring, and what's coming up for you as well. There's probably something just in that to keep you feeling supported more than anything. Yeah. So your client that currently they're coming to you, and what is being said about that referral pipeline? Do they say, go see Kim and she's going to do X, go see Kim, and what's that referral bit look like? What's the contract, if you like, of how they're coming to work with you?
Mhm. So they go on the website because they've read the director's best-selling book, or they've heard her on a podcast, or one of
Mhm,
the other coaches, and they come onto the website, the Center for Trauma Resolution, and they look through the, I guess it's like 13 or 14 coaches listed. They
mhm,
read the bios, and then they schedule an inquiry call with the one that sounds good for them.
mhm, mhm.
So I do an inquiry call, and then they usually book an intake session. And then after that, just 50 minutes, like 50 minutes of coaching sessions. So then when they book an intake session with me, or I should say an initial trial session, they get a long piece of paper that says, I'm not a therapist, I'm just
Yeah,
a coach. I work in with somatic tools. I have a supervisor who is a doctor, but I am not a doctor. Like just a
yeah,
long list of things. Yeah,
great. Okay. So that's pretty explicit, and that's pretty clear.
yeah.
So when you're doing the intake, right, if I get a feel that, so, also, and I know you're not, but there's something about me that wants to just presence this. And I really know that you're not, but it's part of my process just going through this. Let's also not make that wrong, that they're there wanting to tell a story.
Yeah,
I'm guessing there is probably quite an intensity and quite a
there is.
there is, right?
Yeah.
That is often flight response manifest. And if you think about the context of people that you're working with, trapped in religious cults for a long, long time,
Mhm,
right?
mhm,
Talking really fast, this kind of intensity about wanting to get out that story really fast
mhm.
is very often flight response, unfully manifested, let's say, but manifested through speech and talk. So that's
Yeah.
not that can never be wrong, because that's what the body wanted to do and couldn't do.
Yes, exactly. They're coming out of freeze into flight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's probably, it's not that, they'll probably go back into freeze, it's like, you'll be dancing through all of that. But
Yeah.
that's probably one way that that is manifest. So I'm going to name a few things, and then I'm going to talk about some ways to it. And please feel free to, if what I'm doing is pulling in the essence of the people you're working to kind of name these things. If there's something off, then let me know. So there's something about that, the intensity.
Mhm.
And there's also like a really important piece in this of, you know, in those environments, you know, one of the deepest things that will be lost is self-trust.
Yes,
And
yes.
yeah, right. Thinking I'm going mad. This
Yeah.
isn't right. Self-trust. The relief in being able to just speak to somebody and share that, who does meet that with compassion, to validate their self-trust is enormous. You know that. You've been through that. So I feel that this is potentially like two of the big things that people are arriving with. So let's just pack those then and talk about this through focalizing, juicy embodiment, and what does that mean, right?
Mhm.
Michael would say whenever the 7 conditions are in place, focalizing is happening.
Mm.
And I anchor in that so much, Kim. And you're kind of, you're in you're in the thick of it, really, because these are people that do really need a lot of that 7 conditions support. Resources are low, self-trust low, all of that sort of thing. So the lower those things are, the higher the 7 conditions need to become.
Mhm.
And it's how do you embody the 7 conditions is your biggest inquiry, I think, throughout this bedding in period in this and ongoing, right? So how do you embody that? And when I think about embodying the 7 conditions with folk that might come with kind of similar makeup in some way, that for me is about removing any of my agenda right out of the door.
Yeah.
I might know a place that I want them to get to because I know that's the road of freedom. I might know all of that sort of stuff and really deeply desire, but I have to just completely chuck that out and meet them where they're at. That pays dividends then further down the road.
Mhm.
So 7 conditions anchoring in that. Now, let's take that a little bit step further. Some of the things that I do, if I notice there's some of these patterns in when I'm doing like consultation calls and Kim, if I kind of sense this, I'll start to get under the legal stuff of I'm not a therapist, I'll start to kind of get under that and go, what does that mean? What is this session going to like? And start to set some permissions in that. So I'll say, I'm here as embodied presence. I know talking about this is probably going to be really important. I'm not talking therapy, but I am here to listen and listen without judgment, right? But here's the thing, can we agree to this way that I know is going to help you? Are you open to listening to this? Yeah, right. So here's the thing. I'm going to be really annoying sometimes when you're talking, and I'm going to ask really stupid questions. Bear with me. I'm the queen of stupid questions. Sometimes it might get annoying. And if it does get annoying, let me know, because sometimes that's useful. But here's the things that you might find weird or annoying. I might sometimes ask you to pause occasionally, because I really want to hear the story, one. And when we take it slower, it gives me a chance to really hear it and be with you in it, because you've not had anyone alongside you. So let's be really in it together. That might mean taking a pause for me and for my system. And I might occasionally reflect back. That's mirroring, by the way, Kim.
Mhm.
So, you're kind of setting some permissions, you're really slowing it down. And then you can say, and sometimes when we take a pause and slow down, and again, it might feel annoying, it might feel like I'm stopping you, I might say to you, what's it like telling me this story? What are you noticing in your body or in your breath, in your system? And that's where, Kim, you can get under a little bit and, get into the sensing, right? So we're on the 9-pointed star. So we've got the 7 conditions in the place. And what we're doing here is the 9-pointed star. We're doing mirroring, we're doing resourcing by fully listening, and we're doing a bit of sensing. What's it like to be you? What do you notice in your body as you're telling me that? Great. Can we stay there and just work with this a little bit? And then great. Then your session then might go and you might all be in senses, or they might be going, but I want to also tell you this, and go, right, okay. And then you might let them kind of, just finish their piece and go, wow, that was interesting, wasn't it? There was a real kind of, I sensed in my system, a real rush in my system for you to tell me that. Did you notice that as well? What's that like? If that speed of wanting to tell me had an expression in the body, what would that be?
That's so good.
Yeah. So again, you're getting into your mirroring through not noticing what you're noticing.
Can
And
you
your
repeat that last bit that you just said?
what
That
bit?
you were saying you were actually kind of like doing dialogue, like what you would say to the client. Like, I'm noticing the speed of which you were talking. Can you say that again?
Yeah, something like, oh gosh, that was like, I really noticed in my system when you shared that like a kind of real rush, like there was a rush to, tell the information. And that's how I kind of received it in my body. And don't make it wrong,
Yeah.
like, don't make it wrong. But like, did you notice that? Does it sometimes feel like you want to get all the information out, and like, so what's that like? They might say, well, I just want to be heard. No one ever believed me. And you might say, well, so what's it like for me to believe you? Or do you know that I believe you now? What does that feel like now? You might get into some senses, or you might take it another road, like they go, yeah, I'm always in a rush to tell because, and you can go, well, if that rush to tell had an expression in the body, let's just, play with me here. If that rush had an expression in the body, what would that be? Would it be like this? You know, would it be like racing heartbeat? What would it be? And then again, you're just kind of bringing it into a little bit of maybe movement, letting some of that flight response through, just giving it some sensing, kind of bringing it into a bit of a somatic realm.
Mm-hmm. That's really good. So like inserting
Yeah.
in different areas, not trying to make the whole thing a vocalizing session. Yeah.
I rarely do a focalizing session that looks like a focalizing session. Like
Yeah.
1 out of 2,000 might be like that. We teach it like that so that you can then break it down, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. 2,000 is an exaggeration, by the way. I don't know why I said that. But, we teach it like that so you can break it down. But if you're just there with the back of your mind, like with the tools of the 9-pointed star,
Mhm.
and you're always in the 7 conditions cradling the session, and don't forget, with that amount of kind of, you know, in intensity environment that they've been in, which and all of that lack of self-trust, the 7 conditions is just so important. Like, if someone was just to come and to listen, you were to listen in an embodied way, not even bring up one thing on the 9-pointed star,
Mm-hmm.
focalizing is happening.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I think that I'm noticing like a relief in you saying that. Like
Mm,
I can say like that is deeply valuable,
mm,
just that,
mm,
and not to rush to like add more things to it.
mm,
Yeah. Would it be okay to ask just a follow-up question about something you said? So when you got to like sensing,
mm.
what does that feel like in your body I noticed something that I've noticed has been coming up in my sessions, which is that even though that's a tool of focalizing, what are you feeling in your body right now as you're saying that?
Mm.
I'm I notice like myself getting tangled on that because there's something in me that goes, what's supposed to happen after that? How's that supposed to be effective? Like,
Mm.
can you remind me like why that's powerful? I can't remember.
Well, you know, when we're any somatic kind of healing is really about bringing the intervention is awareness. The main intervention, if you like, is awareness, because what we, you know, what we feel we heal, old adage, and also,
Mhm. I'm
you
gonna
know,
write that down. I've never heard that one before. I'm a sucker for rhymes. Okay.
I'm glad it's appeased your rhyming heart.
What we feel heals.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
yeah.
I love that.
Mhm. And you know, it's that again, like the old adage of like, you know, oh, I was going to bring like another one in. I don't think that's accurate. But yeah, it's what we feel we heal, and we
Mhm.
get to we don't, you know, the tension, the contraction, the whatever isn't 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 as intense because when we bring awareness to it, it's healing, but it's sort of metabolizing it through the body. And it might be that, you know, it's like, oh, I noticed that, and then something else happens, you know, and you're just kind of taking them through all of that healing process. Something else that comes up for me that I didn't mention is resourcing. And that's another contract that I kind of make with people, you know, when they're presenting in this way, is you know, talk about resourcing. And I say, you're going to want to get right into it, and you're going to want to get right in deep and dirty into all of it. And what I'm here to do is to help you have some sustainable felt sense of nourishment, of self-trust. And so we're gonna, if that's okay, the first few times we work together, we're gonna spend a portion of the session on resourcing, right? And your resourcing, you can play around with that because you can kind of do the stuff that we do in focalizing, or it might be like, you know, you're out now. I'm presuming these people are out and this is where the journey that they're on. Is that right?
Sometimes, sometimes not. There's a large variety, actually. It's
Right.
surprising. Mm.
So find the resource within that. So for the ones that are out, you know, you're out now. How does that feel? That's going to be resource, and it's probably also going to bring up for you everything that's underneath: shame, guilt about leaving other people,
Grief. Yeah.
grief, all of that sort of stuff. It's going to bring up all of that stuff that you're going to get to eventually anyway.
Yeah.
But you could kind of just play around with what is resourcing, and you know, it might be you know, if they're still in, you know, like what's the one thing that makes you feel you
Mhm.
whilst in there? What's the one thing that makes you feel you? You know, as simple as, you know, is there, you know, or what's the one thing that's made you feel you this week? Has there, for example, has the sun touched your cheek sometime
Mhm.
and you've just had that memory? Or is there a pet, or, you know, a chicken, or, you know, is there, you know, a smell from the fields, or I don't know, whatever, you know?
Yeah, we're making lists, like I love lists, so I get them to like 1 to 20 and just what do you love?
Mm. Great,
And as a
great.
resource. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good. I heard I'm taking up all the time, never mind. I could just hog you for like 4 hours.
Yeah. I'll go to Lena, and then, you know, if there's time, come back, or, you know, drop me a note. That okay for now, Kim?
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
That was
thanks for
really,
the
really
question.
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Great work, by the way.
Thank you very much. That was actually very, very helpful for me as well. Because the question was a little bit similar. I'm having a client who I knew is coming with a grief of someone that she lost, with that goal of like processing the grief. And she wasn't experienced in any embodiment kind of practices, so it was also very new. And it was quite well actually, but in the second session or third, I noticed that there is this rush of like, I want to talk, I want to tell the story, and she kept on coming back to telling the story. And I felt like it's a little bit of, you know, her wanting to rush and me wondering how can I bring her back. So it was kind of this ping pong a little bit. She's like rushing, and I'm okay. How can we come back? She wants to talk again, and then okay, how can we come back? So yeah, so it was a lot of value now in hearing this.
Yeah.
It was quite similar.
It's interesting you use the word ping pong, because it is a bit of a dance. It is a bit of a dance with that sort of energy, because what you don't want to do is make it wrong. In fact, you really want to make it right. You really want to bring attention to it in some ways, because it is kind of like something that's in the field, but can we just bring it in a body way, like let the body express that as well as you saying it, right? You actually kind of want to make it really right. So there's part about leaning into it and finding the expression of it. And there's part about then dancing to sometimes that, oh, can we pause from it and see what else is here? So it is a bit, you know, a bit ping pong. It is a bit of a dance, you know, bit between that, but never making it wrong, never kind of being on our agenda about, I'm not saying you are, by the way, this is just part of my process, never being, you know, on any other agenda than curiosity, not making any of it wrong. Can we get under it? Can we get under it? Where's the opportunity to get under it a little?
Yeah, and I'm now, you know, I was also listening to Kim's example, and I was wondering, like, can it be of value to just let them run in the pace that they want to run? Because I'm saying running because I really felt like in my case it was like as soon as possible, and then I think it's also quite similar. And I'm wondering if maybe that's how the session can go sometimes, to just let them hear it.
Yeah, I mean that, you know, if I think back to kind of sessions, you know, that, you know, I've run with sort of, you know, similar intensity of that. You know, there's maybe been like two little, you know, if there's two little moments of, you know, bringing in the 9-pointed star, that's a lot. That's actually a lot, you know. And then the next time might be two again. The time after that, it might be four, you know. You might kind of just go, right now, we've just like, what about today? If we practice, you know, a little bit more time hanging out in this area, you know, you can kind of build up. You got to remember that embodiment is, this is a phrase that I use all the time. Embodiment is our greatest desire, whether we subconsciously know that because we're in these realms and we hear the words about, or whether we subconsciously know it, because subconsciously, I believe we all have that desire, because it's so inherently linked to self-trust, you know, values, you know, the soul, connection to the, you know, the greater body around us. So there's a subconscious desire, even I believe, if there isn't a conscious. But it is our greatest fear when we've experienced trauma, or when we've experienced a lot of grief or challenges. You know, it really is, it is quite terrifying sometimes, because it can feel like we're going to open a Pandora's box, or it can feel like, in the terms of grief, like, when is this ever going to fucking end if I go in there? You know, grief can have that, like, oh, all encompassing. So we don't want to actually take someone right into embodiment, you know, if they're presenting in that way, because their embodiment right now, and the way that they are embodied, because they still are embodied, is just organized in a way that is a protection method, so it isn't overwhelming. You know, we're always working on overwhelm is the enemy, you know. So little and often. So to your original question about, like, you know, just letting kind of people speak, you know, sometimes there's been like 2 little vignettes in a session where someone's just really needed, more than anything, 7 conditions. Sometimes there's been 2 little vignettes, and then it builds and it builds and it builds and it builds. But yeah, often starting quite small.
And then also another case, when towards the end of the session, the client kind of, how do I say it, like, it finally cracked in a way, like she was kind of struggling through it, and then it finally cracked. The tears were flowing, and then she said, I want to stay here. I want to kind of close it by myself. I want to lay down and like just be with this and feel it. And that moment, I remember I wasn't that certain, like if it's okay to leave her process like this, without bringing properly back, you know, to kind of land back. What do you think? I kind of checked in with her a bit. I wanted, yeah, to get some kind of, I don't know, how do I say it, like a window where I can check in with her. So I did that. It also didn't feel fully right to just say, no, we're gonna close my way. But I remember this kind of question mark when we left off there. I wasn't
A good question. And again, you know, really celebrating the efficacy of how you're bringing that question in, and the efficacy that, you know, is underpinning that. You know, always, you know, one, you know, that client's kind of capacity, right? You know, let's say they've just come off a war zone and they're dealing with grief, and they're 2 days out of a war zone. I'd be less inclined to leave that, you know. I might be like, right, okay, I'm going to spend an extra bit of time with you, and, you know, can we get some resources around you before I leave you, you know, if it's like that. But generally speaking, you know, if someone has got resources in their life, it's just that this was difficult thing for them to meet, and they've, you know, they've met it. You know, generally speaking, I would honor that. And, you know, just say, right, okay, you know, just tell me how, you know, are you, you know, what are you doing after this? You know, what have you got planned? You know, I really just want to check in. Are you sure you're okay? For me to leave, would you like to check in just as you did do on this time? You can do all of those things. But there's many a time when you know, I've been working with clients for a long time, and, you know, something like that happens, and it's like, okay, I'll leave you, check in with me later if you wish. Because I know their capacity, right? You know, I know that this is actually a resource for them to have that space to themselves now. So depends on context, capacity, you know, where on that line I would be with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That was it on my side.
Hey?
That was it on my side, actually.
Oh, thank you.
So
Thank you.
beautiful how Kim sharing was
Yeah.
like really.
Yeah. Yeah, just let's just spend a moment just checking in with our own systems and our own bodies. Just seeing if there's anything else that, you know, feels left unsaid, or wants to be asked or wants to be shared? Anything else that wants to be asked or shared?
Quick question, or I think it could be a quick answer. Like, Joe, do you get to the point where you're not thinking about your clients so much between clients? Because right now I'm thinking about my clients a lot in between. It's like an hour session.
Mm,
I'm noticing like I could think about them all day and just various aspects of religious trauma in
mm,
relation to them all day. And like I'm starting to feel like, gosh, want some energy back for other things.
yeah. So you really need to resource up doing this, especially when you're working so closely with your own history as well. Anyone that's doing that, and most of us tend to do, because whether we consciously do it or not, we attract people that have a similar history. So, just resourcing. I know you said at the beginning, like, I have the capacity, don't worry about that. Just because you have the capacity right now doesn't mean you have to like use it all, and doesn't mean that you don't need to tend to it pretty extensively, when we're working in this way. We're all big-hearted people. We're all like coming at this really wanting to support others, and it's absolutely beautiful. But we do need to tend to ourselves, so keep coming to things like the circles, keep coming to things like this so you feel supported, wherever you want, individual support, if you feel that you want to go down that. I have a lot of individual support and supervision because of the, just this the size of practice now. But I know that without that, I'd be, I wouldn't be able to do what I do. So, your own somatic practices as well, yoga therapy, you'll have a lot, your own time in nature, things like that. Just consider, Kim, have I upped it now I've taken on this new, I think, when I take on, what am I also taking on in terms of resource? Because
Good.
otherwise I might be like, oh yeah, I've got the capacity to take that on. But I
Yeah.
kind of think you can take for granted sometimes that capacity, and you do need to top up the other way somehow, whether it be, you know, making sure that there's an hour for a walk, whatever that is that tops you up and is resourcing. Think about that exchange of bringing on, what do I need to bring on to support me?
So true. So true. Yeah.
We all need reminded of it as well, Kim. People remind me of it. I'm just reminding you of it. We're all in that mud together. We all do need reminding of it. We really do. But and there's little things like I have now. I try like little things in between sessions as well. So I have like, little things that I do. Like I have little, I call them movement snacks. So like little 5 minute, 10 minute things that I might do, from putting on a tune and just shaking out, to putting my legs against the wall and my back on the floor, that position just makes me feel supported, to, just kind of taking a longer walk. And I also have things like, I have like frankincense, and sometimes I kind of like put that on and just sort of like wash myself a little bit. It's like a kind of little reset and a little end. Many people have different practices, but find something that is like puts like an energetic full stop
Mhm,
on that session.
mhm. So good, Joe.
Mhm.
Yes, full stop. Like, yeah, like bringing it to a close instead of kind of having it be open and my thoughts carry on.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
undoubtedly, because you're a caring, loving person, you know, I'm not saying it's going to be full stop in that empirical sense, but if you consciously just try to offer yourself and the client as well, you know, there is something about, you know, I think probably beneficial for them in some ways, having that energetic full stop. It will just provide a different quality to that in between space for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hmm. Great session.
Mhm. Like so
Great
good.
session. Yeah.
Very much. It was really amazing.
Thank you.
Right, beauties. See you soon. We have coming up what do we have? We've got, I think next session is next, expanding on SEX, which is the most popular community event I think has ever been put up. So that's on Friday, the 17th of May. And then there's a community circle on the 27th of May, and we are in the process of putting up the next 3 months community events and a little poll about that. So you'll see those soon.
Okay.
All right, darlings.
Thank you.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.